Hey, if you'd like to earn CEUs for this webinar, join the Safeopedia community at the link in the description below. Now on to the show.
All right, guys, welcome. While we get things rolling, please go ahead and share in the chat. What are your thoughts on AI? I'm sure you've been to one of dozens of webinars or topics at conferences about this term that is not so new, but fairly new to our domain. So please, yeah, share. We'd love to kind of gauge where the audience is when it comes to AI. And we'll go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about building AI projects that succeed. If you are on LinkedIn, you probably see a lot of things like, this is why these projects failed. This is why these projects failed. We wanted to kind of give a positive spin on it and give you some tools and frameworks that you can take away today to be able to apply, some of the lessons that we're going to give you. So we're excited that you could be here today. AI is probably filling up your inbox. You're probably seeing it from your vendors, software, your organization, either with caution or excitement or a little bit in between. But today we're going to go a little bit beyond the basics and show you how to actually position yourself in a way to leverage this technology in your EH&S programs. Some housekeeping. We're going to try to monitor the chat as much as possible. Me and Dan will be tag teaming this presentation. But please feel free to share your questions and we'll make sure we get to it, even if it's after the session. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So I won't reintroduce myself. Jamie already did that. So we'll go ahead and skip that part. Dan, you want to go ahead and say your piece?
Yeah, thanks, Ariana. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Grinnell, the founder of AI for EHS. So, like Jamie had mentioned, I have a background as a practitioner, 10 years as an EHS manager. And I specialize in applying AI to solve our challenges in the EHS space. It's sort of a passion of mine, and I'm excited to share some practical insights with you all. So really our goal today is not really to overwhelm you at all with the technical jargon. We want to give you a practical and systematic framework that you can take back to your office and start using on Monday. So let's dive in.
Okay, so in this session, we're going to walk through 5 key learning outcomes. We're going to discuss how to run a quick culture and system scan so you can really understand where you're starting from, how to balance worker needs with what's actually ready in the technology suite today, how to set smart pilot boundaries, prove impact in a language that finance and your executive teams will understand, and help you build a clear decision gate before you do decide to go from pilot to scale.
Yeah, but what we really want you to take away from this is that you don't need to be an AI expert at all to do this well. You just need to be systematic and start with the end in mind. But first, let's kind of look at why most AI projects fail.
So why do so many promising, AI pilots die on the vine or honestly never take off in the first place? We can talk about a few common pitfalls. There are more, but these are some of the most common that we tend to see. Some of that might be there's no problem value fit. This is probably the most common and the most critical failure. You'll get an email or a decision maker gets wowed at a conference by some cool demo. It has the latest and greatest, features, and that shiny new object syndrome starts to kick in. Before you know it, you're starting to buy solutions. They may even give them to you for free sometimes. And it just becomes kind of a classic tale, wagging the dog, where you feel, you feel excited and that passion and you jump straight to the technology. Another big one is undocumented workflows. I say this all the time, but you cannot put digital lipstick on a process and expect that it will magically fix it. Even worse, you usually don't even know what the process is. We cannot automate tasks that only live in our minds. They have to be written so that AI can help enhance those workflows And I'm not talking about your compliance guidelines and your EH&S management system and your programs. I mean actual process and workflow documentation. You can call it mind mapping, workflow diagrams, whatever works for you and your team, but it needs to be written down in a way, because that's the only way you'll visually be able to map out those pain points. And so when you go to do opportunity mapping, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you'll be in a lot better position. And the last one I'll talk about is data and context gaps. It's really important to understand that AI only works off of the context that you give it. It cannot read your mind. So yes, more data is better, but there has to be organization to it and context around it. We need to understand the lineage of that, where that data is coming from, who it affects, why it's even there. Much of that data will inform safety data, but it actually probably doesn't come from your incident data. It comes from operational data that you don't actually own, maybe job tasks, project work orders, maintenance manuals, and other data that safety isn't necessarily, the key stakeholder of, but needs access to. So all of that data is the context in which AI will thrive on, and the more you have of it, the better, but it has to be organized to some extent.
Yeah, some other examples would be the IT integration and data hurdles, kind of like what Ariana was just mentioning. Your IT team has a long list of priorities, and integrating a new unproven tool is rarely at the top. But as Ariana mentioned, getting clean, accessible data is really a challenge, but it's crucial for the AI to provide the best output and for success with the project. So really, without IT's buy-in and clean data, your pilot is really going to be dead on arrival. Another example is no room for experimentation. So if there are no safe spaces that exist at your org for you to experiment with AI tools, it's going to be difficult for you to understand what their capabilities are and how it can provide value to your workflows. And the last one we'll mention is just lack of buy-in. This is a very important one too. So both the teams on the ground and the C-suite need to trust the AI tool that you're using or proposing, and clearly understand how it solves a problem that they care about. All this is really important to be able to scale the project. And then kind of finally, as a closing thought on this slide, is that AI adoption many times is just a culture issue. Meaning if we don't have the support to implement a new project, then we really need to be a change agent to be able to identify these issues before they happen so that you can get the support you need.
Yeah, and honestly, these hurdles or common pitfalls don't only apply to AI projects. I see that a lot across any major EH&S technology implementation. People on this call may have seen software that you've spent millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and everyone hates it. It's a lot of these issues still apply there. So don't think about the lessons that we're teaching just in the context of AI. They can be used across anything when it comes to health and safety technology.
And this kind of brings us to an important point that most AI projects get wrong. So they start with the tech and not the worker. And there was actually a recent Stanford study on the future of work with AI that kind of gives us some informative insights here. So looking at the slide, we can see that only 1.9% of the workers in this study wanted full automation with AI with no human involvement. And about 36% were okay with supervising AI. But really the biggest group, around 42% wanted an equal partnership with AI. So they don't want to be replaced. They want to be enhanced or augmented. So they want tools that make their job easier, safer, and more efficient. So most AI projects fail because they're built on that faulty assumption that workers want to be automated away. That's kind of completely backwards from what we're seeing with studies like this. Really, the success comes from finding that equal partnership. It's really the sweet spot. And then we're going to also go into a matrix that we're about to show you that's going to kind of talk about how to choose the right partnership with AI.
Yeah. So how do you find that sweet spot? We're going to talk about a fairly simple kind of four-step framework. You don't have to worry about reading all the details right now. The philosophy is kind of what's important, and it's to start with the end in mind. So instead of chasing all the new AI tools and the cool new features or pressuring your vendor to innovate, this framework is going to help you kind of provide some guardrails to help you focus on what really matters. And the goal is to design to force the right conversations all up and down that chain of responsibility and to capture the information that you need so that you can be putting your problem first and then your technology second, every single time, no matter what type of project you're trying to do. So we'll start with step one, identifying your problems. So before jumping to solutions, you kind of need to do that baseline assessment. It means you need to take an honest look at like where you're starting. And there's two pieces of this. One is a culture and organizational assessment. So it may mean asking questions like, does your leadership really support innovation, or are they very risk adverse? Do they just kind of talk about it because it sounds good in board meetings? Are you being told to go use AI because your headcount's getting cut? And you need to be more efficient. But you're also being told simultaneously that you also need to cut your budget overall from the existing programs that you already have. Are you even being allowed to run pilots? Is failure an acceptable result? You need to gauge where your team's day-to-day comfort is with using AI. Do you even know what tools your company has available? Are you a Microsoft shop and do you have access to Copilot? But if you're really into it, there might be a ChatGPT enterprise plan. You need to kind of suss out what the landscape looks like so that you can understand, what tools you're working with, or, do we need to go back to the drawing board and start having these conversations kind of early on? The second piece is to determine the state of your systems and your data. So what are you using to capture your health and safety data? Are you using 5 different enterprise EH&S softwares? Are you still using Excel, Microsoft Teams, and Forms to pull it all together? Are business units, geographies, locations allowed independence across what they use, or do acquisitions or kind of happen often, and you're always constantly working with new data sources? What data do you have? Where does it live? Who has access to it? Is there data governance happening? Are you cleaning your data? Or was that Power BI dashboard set up 6 years ago and no one's checked what's happening underneath the hood in a while? Are you confident that your processes in real life reflect your digital systems? You cannot apply AI to data that doesn't exist or is trapped in a system that nobody has access to. So doing this two-part exercise will kind of unveil a lot of information about your starting point. And we'll talk about a few ways how you can practically gather this information, so it's not just theoretical.
So there's kind of a few ways to do this where you're gathering the data and assessing your cultural readiness for AI. You can kind of start with maybe cross-functional sessions. You can get EH&S, operations, IT, site managers, and especially frontline workers together to kind of brainstorm what are the most important problems that you're dealing with. You could also use breakout rooms, large groups that maybe go over the most repeated issues that you find, and maybe focus on the real systemic problems that seem to keep coming up. Or you could involve an external facilitator. Sometimes, an outside perspective can help spot patterns and cut through internal politics in a way that maybe you can't internally.
Yeah. And if you can't get everyone in a room, you can start with low effort, things like, Slack or team polls, or, gathering some simple surveys. But I'll emphasize that if you can get in the same room, even if it's a Zoom room, try to. The dynamics and the quality that come with that are far more, are completely different and more valuable than asking someone to fill out like a survey. You're going to get a lot different response pattern. And any way you can gauge voice, you're going to get a lot more honest feedback as well. You can check your company's like maybe center of excellence. They tend to have a bird's eye view on what's happening across the organization. And then once you've determined, the how you're going to do that, then there's the what. And, some more deep questions, to get people's gears turning in those conversations are, hey guys, where are we reporting hazards? Where are we not reporting hazards because the process is just too cumbersome? That could be in your safety concern reporting or your pre-job briefings. Where are you capturing data, but you have never seen it? And if you're not, you don't even know where it's being used at. Where are we really wasting or spending time making people check the box, entering data, tracking it, and trying to make sense of it daily, weekly, monthly? Those are like some starter questions to get your gears turning. But I cannot stress this enough. If you cannot articulate your specific use case and the problems that you want to solve, the universe, your leaders, and vendors will create those problems for you and tell you what your problems are. And then we'll be running a million miles in a complete wrong direction. So you need to have an idea of what problem you're trying to solve, and it'll make your experimentation a lot more exciting, because you're really finding the value in how it applies to your organization.
Yeah, and although the topic of this presentation is about AI, we do want to emphasize that as you're exploring these pain points, so you're coming up with problems that you need to solve, not all those pain points might be a technology problem. It could be a process problem. It could be a culture problem. So in other words, AI or tech may not always be the right solution. Maybe a reporting process is too complicated, or workflow has too many handoffs. So you might not need AI or a tech solution. You might just need a simplified checklist or a clear procedure. So the key is really not to jump to solutions here. We need to really kind of explore those problems that are relevant to everyone, that everyone shares, and then find common themes and repeated issues. So once you have your list, then you can kind of determine what's for AI and what's not.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to make sure I mention is AI solutions don't always mean it's coming from a third-party vendor. You could probably leverage in-house enterprise systems that might be already available to you. Things like ServiceNow or Atlassian, Jira, using a combination of Gemini and AppScript if you're working in Google, Copilot. So the solution may not always require like a big budget, but it will always require stakeholder input, time, resources, and organizational support. So that will bring us to step 2.
Okay, so you've identified your real problems. Now it's time to really strategically evaluate where AI can actually help. And this is where our automation matrix or opportunity matrix comes in. So this is our automation / opportunity matrix, and it's based on a Stanford study as well. But on the x-axis, you have worker desire. It's how much do your employees actually want to help with this task. And then on the y-axis, did I do that backwards? Yeah, probably. The x-axis is the technical capability. So how mature and reliable is the AI for this task today? So this kind of gives us 4 distinct zones. So the green light zone is really the EH&S sweet spot. Workers want it. The tech is ready. These are the projects you should really implement first. So think about automating tedious reports or simplifying data entry for this sort of grid right there. And then the R&D opportunity, that's high desire, low capability. Your team wants a solution, but the technology isn't quite there yet. So maybe it's predicting complex incidents with 100% accuracy. The advice here is really to focus on fixing your data foundation first, so you're ready when the tech matures. The red light zone, we would say proceed with caution here. The AI can do the job, but workers really don't want it, often because it feels like surveillance. So this is where you need a strong human in the loop component. And then finally, low desire, low priority. It's simple. So we should just really ignore these tasks for now. They aren't really useful or wanted. So let's kind of look at some examples for EHS specifically. So here are some kind of examples of tasks that we would do typically as an EHS practitioner and where maybe they would fall within the matrix. So maybe high desire, high capability tasks would be something data heavy, something tedious like waste manufacturing.
We lost. Oh, are you there, Dan?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. So, there you are.
I'm back. I don't know why that went out, but
Okay.
going back to the grid. So low desire, low capability would be coaching or emergency response. I don't think we would want an AI to fully automate that. And then kind of like a slight segue here is, we want to kind of match our problem with an AI tool. And so we have like a little exercise here that I set up.
Let's see if it works.
And match an AI solution to a problem.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe you're gonna have to do that, Ariana.
Oh, I am doing it. You can't see it?
No.
Oh, I'll drag and drop. Go for it.
Okay. I can't see though the
Oh, sad. We won't be able to do it. I am showing it though.
share it really quick.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Just talk through it, Dan. Talk through it.
Yeah, no, I think we have different sort of issues as practitioners. Maybe we have manual incident reporting that's taking a long time. Something like natural language processing can help us. There we go. We can use natural language processing to write an incident report for us. Maybe ergo assessments are taking too long manually. We can use a computer vision tool to automatically assess worker postures and provide reports. Predicting incidents, maybe that's a little difficult with our historical data. We can use a predictive analytics tool that uses machine learning to predict future outcomes from the data that we have in minutes. Maybe it's difficult to monitor lone workers. You can use IoT sensors or wearables that can automatically detect falls or man down events and send alerts. Or maybe we're having problems kind of detecting when people are not wearing their PPE. We can use computer vision again for that to detect when it's not being used and use it as a objective coaching tool to show when PPE is required. Or finally, maybe we have a lot of training across different sites and it's taking a long time to generate that. You can use an LLM, large language model, to generate all that relevant training for 100 sites in a fraction of the time they would take to do that manually. So now let's look at the 5 questions though that you need to answer before you even get started talking to vendors.
Yeah, so let's get back to the framework. You've done the hard work, you've identified your problems, you've used that matrix to narrow down what's worth actually pursuing out of that problem list. But we're gonna have one more layer before you start scheduling vendor demos. If you don't have good answers that will pass the sniff test to these questions, you probably should pause, refine, go back through those exercises, get another workshop done. So problem first, what's that specific operational challenge you're trying to solve? Not we want AI for instant investigations, but what exactly? Like, is it data entry? Is the report quality? Is it, getting data out of those forms that you're submitting? Try to be as specific as possible. The second one is data readiness. Do you have accessible, decent quality data to be able to hand over? Because the AI tool is only as good as the data that you feed it. It could be your processes, programs, exports of your data from your EH&S management systems. Any of those things would apply, but is it ready? Is it ready to hand over? And then the third one is realistic value. So can you articulate the business value that you're expecting? Not AI will make things better, but actual measurable outcomes. Speak the language of the business, right? Think about speed, quality, risk reduction, worker adoption success. You got to be able to quantify those benefits in at least one or more of those categories. Fourth is organizational readiness. So you did that kind of organizational assessment. Is your org ready to provide the support you need? It doesn't matter if it's an off-the-shelf tool, but like, does IT have the capacity to review this? Is the cybersecurity team overloaded because everyone's running and buying AI tools to pilot? Do you have time to train the field on, to use these tools? Do you have change management resources to make it all work? How much of this is falling on you as the champion or the pusher of this versus you being supported by other teams. And is this being pushed top down or is this bubbling up for the field? Those are all kind of considerations that you need to assess. And then lastly is strategic alignment. How does this support the broader EHS objectives and your company's business goals? You can probably tie it back to something executives care about, like reducing injuries, improving productivity, meeting regulatory requirements, but you need to be able to tie it back to something.
Right. So these 5 questions are really your litmus test. So if you don't have any good answers to these questions, you're probably not ready for an AI tool or not ready to go shopping with a vendor. And more importantly, this documentation is actually pretty valuable whether you explore it with a vendor or not. You might not have the budget for a pilot right now, but when you do, you'll have a fully formed business case ready to go.
Yeah. So this work is not done in vain. If your organization is not ready for it today, I promise it will come back. So, still do the work and make sure you're documenting it. So you've done the upfront work, you understand your problems, you have a clear hypothesis, and you understand the level of support you have, but now what? So now it's time to design a pilot that can be built for a clear yes or no decision. And you don't want to get stuck in pilot purgatory, which is where most projects go to die. So we'll talk about that a little bit. You start really excited. Results are interesting, but not so much conclusive. Some teams started the pilot with that new cool tool later than the other one. And so you extend it, and then you extend it again, and budgets start getting cut, and then excitement gets burned out, and passion dies, and now you're just kind of stuck. There's a few things that can help prevent this. It won't always guarantee it because we know how budgets go and supports go. There's org changes, new leadership, red tape. But some of these things are within your control to a certain degree. So first, you need to separate success criteria from decision criteria. Success is your hypothesis. Decision is your go or no go triggers. So write both down and be clear about what those are. Second, set a kill date no matter what. 6 to 12 weeks, maybe 18 weeks, but you're probably pushing it. If it's inconclusive after the deadline, the answer is probably no. Because if you can't prove value in that time, extending it probably won't help. You need to stop the project, go back to the beginning of this framework and start again. And you'll be a lot more efficient that time around because you've already gathered those lessons learned from this failed project. And now you have enough to start to go with for the next pilot. Whether it's the same tool, different tool, doesn't matter. And then third, at least halfway through, if you are spending money, try to get full scale pricing, like actual pricing for whether it's based on the users or the sites or cameras that you're deploying computer vision on. And vendors won't share that. That's kind of a red flag. If you can't afford it to scale, then what's the point of piloting? Don't make assumptions based on your logo or whoever they're going to work with us. Sure, but they are a business that also needs to run. So just be transparent with your partners, with your team so that you can make a plan, right? The worst thing that you can do is get people excited about a tool and then tell them that we can't afford it. So you want to get ahead of that. And then lastly, set the vendor partnership expectations. They have to have skin in the game too. What is pilot, what does the pilot timeline look like? How much support will we have? Are you going to come on site? What does training look like? Is it train the trainer? Are you going to be, what kind of support will you give me? And evaluate their responsiveness. So don't just let them throw their software over the fence. Most of them are passionate and love the solution that they're delivering. So, but you want to make sure that both parties have equal skin in the game.
Yeah, so as we're kind of thinking about piloting these AI projects, we want to leave you with some practical tips for running a successful one. So the first one would be start small and specific. We need to pick one or two specific use cases with pretty clear boundaries. A clear problem that everyone cares about. Next would be tests with the champions and the resistant users. So this is so important. Champions will really confirm what you want to hear, and then the skeptics will show you what's really going to break. So you learn probably far more from the skeptics, but it's important to keep or include both. And then partnering with your vendor, as Ariana kind of just mentioned, we want to make sure we have the right support. We need to schedule frequent check-ins with that vendor, ask them for case studies from other customers who've scaled this successfully. You want to make sure that you're getting the right information to make the right choices with the solution. And then intentionally test the edge cases. So, what happens when the Wi-Fi is spotty, when the data is messy, or during your busiest production periods? You kind of need to know how the solution is going to respond or be implemented in cases like that.
Yeah. And then on the internal side, we talked about this a bit, but make sure you're getting buy-in from both ends. You need leadership to provide the support, the budget, the resources, but you need frontline workers to be excited and engage and actually want to use the tool because they ultimately determine the success of it. You could have the biggest budget and all the executive sponsorship in the world, but if Carl, at the plant hates it, it's probably not gonna, it's not gonna happen. It'll just become another sitting duck on your budget sheet. So make sure you're constantly communicating the why, which is why we encourage you to identify those problems up front. Make it apply to the business in a way that isn't theoretical, right? They can understand like, hey guys, we've noticed we've been, spending a ton of time doing XYZ, or doing this tool because we don't have bodies, to support every single one of our facilities. So we want to test out this computer vision solution. The goal is not to enhance surveillance. It's to help be able to support you. As supervisors, we want to give you more data to coach your teams on the front lines of actual problems that are happening, not just what gets reported on paper. So those are just like having those like real human conversations when you're talking about technology like this that could feel a little bit woo-woo and scary still. That will help ease people into not being afraid of these solutions that really can do a lot to enhance productivity and overall make the workplace safer. And the last thing we talked about this was document everything, right? Every piece of feedback, every data point, every hiccup. Hold debrief sessions. If you're doing a 6-week pilot, hold a session at a minimum every week. Don't let those thoughts or things go. Keep it open-ended. Hey guys, send me an email, a Slack message, Teams. Find a way to gather all that, and then use AI to find the common themes and threads, right? I really am a big fan of voice memos. So I tell people like, hey, most of you have an iPhone or an Android, like open up the voice memo app, download that MP4 and send it to me. You can download that transcript into Gemini or Copilot, and like I said, you're gonna get a lot more from verbal feedback than written. So hold meetings and do whatever you can to get that feedback. If there's silence during the pilot, your project's already dead. So make sure that you're emphasizing that. Success or failure is extremely useful information for your business justification when the time comes to either ask for permission to scale or to hold it for the next project that you want to move on to. So your pilot's rolling, and now we can talk about what the considerations are for scale.
So after your pilot ends, it's sort of decision time. So here's some of the green lights you're looking for that signal that kind of you're ready to scale. I won't kind of go over all of these points on the slide, but I think the two most important, in my opinion, are really demand from the field and the measurable impact. So really, are your field teams actively asking for broader access to the tool? that kind of shows you feel trust and delivered value with the teams on the ground. And then second, if you cannot prove a measurable impact that aligns with your initial hypothesis or aligns with other broader business objectives, you have to stop there. We can't waste budget scaling something that really is not proving any value.
Yeah. And then on the flip side of that, there's some red flags that will probably tell you to hit the brakes. Be honest, most pilots probably shouldn't scale. That's kind of the whole point of a pilot, is to learn. Everyone loving the demo, but no one being able to quantify kind of the business impact is a big red flag. Enthusiasm doesn't pay the bills. One of those is a killer that we see is finance sees that price tag for the first time and they're sticker shock. So it goes kind of back to our earlier point of knowing precisely why to know why the commercial reality is happening here. So there's a few more, right? Like talking about lack of trust in the outputs. If people can't really trust what the system is, throwing into the AI magic machine and pushing out, and can't explain it, can't explain the confidence in it, can't tie back to the data that you fed it, you're probably, these are all signs that you need to pause and reevaluate. So sum it all up, you need to start with the problem, not the technology.
You got to use the opportunity mapping to find problems actually worth solving with your stakeholders in the C-suite.
Yeah, strategically evaluate your data readiness. Look under the hood, be familiar with what's happening there.
And then pilot with the end in mind using a clear decision criteria.
And then scale only when you have proven some type of measurable value. So if you haven't listened to anything else we've said on here, you can screenshot this. We'll also have the slides at our booth. We want to leave you with a plan. You can either start tomorrow, you can put into your 2026 goals, some homework, right? These timelines are adjustable to your business. We tried to give you some realistic of what we see in either in client projects or organizations actually execute, no matter the size. You might be able to move quicker, but things might be a little bit more slow rolling based on that assessment you do at the beginning. So focus on identifying your problems, survey your stakeholders, run those workshops we talked about, evaluate your options, and then build your hypothesis and use that matrix that Dan showed. And then if you're ready, run a tightly scoped, organized pilot. And then, probably later you can start to make a clear decision where to scale works. Like I said, you can compress or extend this, but this is typically, what we might see.
The most important part of the whole process is really just to be honest about whether you hit your success metrics or not. So, this framework is free that we've shared. The hard work and the real value kind of happens in the detailed implementation. So what we would say is just be systematic and you'll be successful with it.
Yeah, so thank you so much, guys, for your time today. We hope you found some value. You can scan the QR code, find some information on how to connect with each of us. We also have a link to our free EH&S digital maturity assessment. That link is also at the Synchro booth. Come visit us there. Me and TJ, my partner, will be hanging out there this week. If you're interested in learning more about AI, we have a link to Dan's AI Fundamentals for EH&S Leaders training that's already been recorded. You can have instant access to that. And please connect with us on LinkedIn. We're very active there. We have blogs. And we're super grateful for you joining.
Yeah, so we'd love to hear about your AI journey and what problems you're trying to solve. So thank you, and we'll be around for questions.
Awesome. That's great, you guys. I mean, software implementation times a million. Now we're at AI, AI implementation. Start with the question one. Awesome. Just I love to geek out with AI and automation and N8N and robots and all. The whole thing is amazing. So let's get to some questions. We have 5 minutes for questions. So let's get to the first one first. How do you ensure accurate information from AI? That's from Brian.
You want to take that one, Dan?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different methods that are available out there. I kind of push the RAG method, which is retrieval augmented generation, that really helps with giving you the most outputs, or giving you the outputs that are have a source linked to them, and you can check to make sure that the output is consistent with whatever it's referencing.
Yeah. A good
I-
example, I can share an example too. Some of you may have been at safety this summer and maybe seen ASSP released, forgot what it's called, like the safety bot or whatever. It's essentially an AI chat bot trained only on that 350 page, safety handbook. And so any question you ask is only going to come from what's in the handbook, right? And it also quoted, it'll highlight it in the book. When you talk about EH&S and health and safety and critical risk, and the work that we do, that type of application is probably going to be the best because that you're only working off of the data that you provided. Now, that doesn't say anything about the quality of the data you're providing it, but nevertheless, it does reduce those hallucinations.
I think it just comes down to the context you provide to the AI that really improves the outputs in terms of accuracy and just reliability of them.
Yeah, I think that covers kind of the next few questions too. There's clearly a lot of questions about, accuracy and accuracy. If you're using, for example, an AI tool, that you're getting from a third party, they should have those confidence builders built within the platform. I encourage, from a product advisory standpoint, vendors to prioritize that. I worked with a vendor that is building a regulatory compliance technology solution that you can ask about, regulations and does this apply to my jurisdiction and things like that. And having that built in creates a very different user experience when you are getting an answer of, can you compare my lockout tagout program to what, OSHA says about it? It's going to give you a lot of answers, but there should be some citations, some reference link at the end of that answer, and a confidence percentage of how critical that the response it's giving you is, so that you can kind of, read the breadcrumbs, right? So it's giving you this answer because it read this regulation, which came from this, .gov website. Look for those things when you're participating in demos. If you're just willy-nilly using ChatGPT to ask that, you very much will get the wrong answer. So use Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini, with caution, because you are going to get answers because it's reading across the whole internet, and the internet is reading the internet. So, keep that in mind.
100%. I think we got time for one more. I think Zach has a good question. It's like, people say the word AI. Sometimes AI is talked about in ambiguity. How can I better guide the thoughts of integrating AI as an asset for operations? That's a great question, Zach.
Yeah, Dan, I think you've written about this a lot.
So just kind of integrating AI as an asset into your operations, is that what I'm hearing as a question?
Yeah, you got 1 minute, so go.
I think it really kind of comes down to, again, like, what problem are we solving? Do workers actually want it, and do people trust it? Like, if we get that trust, it's solving an actual problem, and it's built into a workflow really easily. I think that's where you'll get the best buy-in, and you'll be successful really adopting an AI.
I have some other thoughts, so I'll respond via text, and to the rest of these questions, and we will definitely share the deck, and we'll have that posted at the Sync Group booth that you can grab.
Awesome. Any parting words before we jump off? Or Ariana, Dan?
No, we appreciate being a part of this. We hope you guys had some great takeaways. Like I said, we talk a lot about this online, so please go follow us. And if you have any specific questions, don't be afraid to shoot a DM over, or reach out. We'd love to hear what kind of projects are actually working. That's the biggest gap right now, is no one's talking about it in the industry. So please come share your stories, failures, successes. We'd love to hear it, and be able to share that with the larger industry. So thank you, guys.